I'm James Rule. Welcome to the Lonely Leader podcast, where we help existing and aspiring leaders find clarity, build resilience, drive performance, and enhance fulfillment. I'm framing this episode of the Lonely Leader podcast around a specific question. How much are meetings costing your business? Now, that might sound like a random question to open up with, but this is based on observations I have been making, particularly in the last 12 months within the organizations, the leadership teams I've been embedded in, the work I've been doing with senior leaders, C-suite leaders in different sectors all around the world. As I've said on previous episodes, I see patterns, I see challenges, and they are frequently occurring irrespective of sector, culture, or country. And when I see that repetition, I try and bring it back to the podcast to share insights, prompt reflection, to help you avoid the pitfalls that I've seen other people stumble into and to navigate around them and accelerate your progress. One of the most often stated challenges of 2024 was, I don't have enough resource. I need more headcount. If I had more staff, I could achieve the extra performance that I need to hit my targets, to grow my business, etc. And so, yes, it would be lovely if somebody had that blank check and they could sign off the check and release the funds for that headcount. But in the vast majority of cases, that budget simply didn't exist. And so my challenge as a coach and as a mentor was to say, how effective are you at utilizing the resource that you have available to you? And in particular, how effective are you at getting the best out of your team? Now, obviously, that is a very multifaceted, nuanced question, and there are so many ways to attack it in terms of making people feel valued and getting the best out of them. But today, I'm zeroing in on meetings because I have seen so many examples of bad practice, for want of a better word, inefficient meetings. And the problem just seems to be the status quo. It's not a critique, an individual situation, one area of malpractice, so to speak. It's a habit. It's what society has conditioned us to accept. So I want to sort of create a visual image in your mind. I'd love you to imagine that in your meeting room at work, there is a shot clock, the sort of thing you see at sporting events that might have the score of a sporting fixture on, or a countdown for how long there is to take a shot, to take a field goal, etc. The difference in this situation is that shot clock is going to follow you round. It's going to follow you in your individual meetings, your virtual meetings, your team meetings, whether they are virtual or in person. And what it's going to have is a financial number. And that financial number is a representation of the cost of salary to the business of everybody in the meeting. Now, let me slice that up a bit more. You might be just having a one-to-one over Teams. So it's your hourly rate of your salary broken down, combined with the hourly rate of the colleague that you are meeting. If it's an external meeting, well, it's just your hourly rate on the screen. If you're in a team meeting with other colleagues and there's 7 or 8 of you, then that clock is a cumulative figure of everybody's hourly rate put into a cumulative number, and every half hour that ticks by, there is an update of that number. Now, where am I going with this? I don't think people ever apply the ruthless analysis of how much is this meeting costing the business. Now, when you do these numbers, it is staggering, particularly when you bring senior C-suite level, senior leaders of an organization together in a room, just how much financial value there is on that meeting. Now, you'll have heard the common rhetoric before. Let's make sure our meetings are efficient. Let's make sure they're punchy. Let's all maximize the use of our time, etc., etc. Now, we all know the theory, but the practice is not coming to the fore. We're not seeing that. Now, you listen to this, you think of your own meeting diary last week, the most recent examples. Was it highly efficient, punchy, to the point, or did you find yourself in meetings that were dragging on, that were taking longer than you felt they should be? Were you in meetings that you didn't really think you should be in? I would wager the answer to both of those questions is yes. And this episode is almost a pattern interrupt, an appeal to get people to recognize that instead of always looking for additional headcount, additional resource, to turn that lens inward and think, am I getting the best out of my people? Am I running efficient meetings when I am chairing? And am I a part of efficient meetings when I am attending? And if the answer is not yes to all of that, then what are you going to do about it? Because resource is too precious. I don't care whether you're a small sole trader, a small, medium-sized entrepreneur, or a FTSE 100 business, whether you've got a small staffing structure or an enormous staffing structure. The principle is the same. Why are we setting fire to resource, to money, by allowing inefficient meetings to take place? So let me just delve a little bit deeper into some of my observations and patterns that I'm seeing all too often. Number one, meetings are taking far too long. A meeting that could be dealt with in half an hour is taking an hour. A meeting that could be done in an hour is taking 2 hours. Now, that's for a number of reasons, but fundamentally, there's a lack of structure. People wander off on tangents. There's not a framework to keep people on track. Next, you have the alpha personalities dominating the floor. Somebody takes the mic, literal proverbial mic, and they go on and on and on, and there's not effective stewardship of the meeting to ensure that the floor is equally split between attendees and the alpha personalities don't dominate. Another key challenge is there are too many people in a meeting. When you get a large group, it's very difficult to prevent some of those problems. It's difficult to prevent meetings going on too long. It's difficult to prevent people taking it on tangents. It's all too easy for one or two personalities to dominate and hold the floor. So as part of this episode and as part of the work I am so passionate about, I am challenging you and I challenge everybody I work with to reflect on who is in the room, who needs to be in the room, and who doesn't need to be in the room. Now, status quo is one thing, but just because meetings have always been run in a certain way with a certain group and certain representatives of different departments doesn't mean that is the best way moving forward. We have to be brave enough and bold enough to reflect on what is the most efficient use of people's time. So the challenge that I put forward and the task that I would love you to engage in and the task that always stimulates a lot of debate, energy, and new momentum is take a piece of paper and list out the meetings that you regularly attend. Not the firefighting meetings that might pop up, the emergency discussion, huddle meeting because there's some sort of crisis or a one-off emergency. I'm talking about the ones that you consistently attend, the one-to-one meetings, the group meetings, the senior leadership, the team meetings, whether they're face-to-face or virtual, list them out. Now, I want you then to reflect on two questions. How much value do you gain from attending that meeting, and how much value do you contribute to that meeting? So there are two perspectives, and I want you to rank the meetings you attend in order of where you derive the most value. So which are the most important meetings for you? You come away thinking, that was really insightful. I got a lot from that. That's really enhanced my insight. It's enabled me to be better at my job. Rank them from where you derive the biggest impact down to the least. And then a separate list, rank them again in terms of where you add the most value. So there'll be some meetings where you are very engaged, you're making numerous insights, contributions, verbal contributions to the meeting. And perhaps there are others where you sit there in silence and you rarely even contribute. You're there because you've been told you have to be there, or you're there because that's the status quo and your role has always attended this meeting. And then step back and look at that list. And I want you to go to the bottom. Those areas where you derive minimal value and are adding minimal value, and have the courage to discuss that list. You need to take that to your line manager, to your leader, and say, I do not believe I should be attending these meetings because I do not derive any value, or I am not adding any value, or a combination of the two. Secondly, if you are leading those meetings, you again need to be thinking about who is attending. Are they adding value? Because this reflection allows us to revisit all individual and collective meetings and reflect on who really needs to be in the room. Because I guarantee, I see it regularly, there will be people who do not feel they should be there. Now, I'm going to say something which always stimulates a high degree of emotion, but start with the people whose cameras are off. Now, for the people that turn the cameras off, I understand that we are all busy, we are all stressed. This is not a personal attack. I do not know you if you're listening to this podcast necessarily. However, I stand behind this 100% that if you are fully engaged in a meeting, you believe you are adding significant value, and also you are deriving significant value, you will not have your camera off. That is a fact that, in my opinion, is irrefutable. If, on the other hand, you are frustrated at how the meeting is being chaired, you do not believe you should really be there, or it is running on far longer than you believe it should, you will turn off your camera to allow you to move on to another project, to check an email, to continue doing a piece of work on the sidelines. So camera off is, for me, a red flag for the individual turning the camera off to ask themselves and be brutally honest, why am I turning my camera off? I believe it's because you're not deriving value or adding value. And if you are chairing the meeting, to be looking at who is turning the camera off and be asking, why are they turning the camera off? Those two questions, in my experience, stimulate a lot of very positive reflection, and we start to streamline who is attending meetings, who needs to be there, who doesn't need to be there. We start to avoid unnecessary duplication. Maybe there's 2 or 3 representatives of the same department. One is enough. They can cascade information into the other 2 individuals. They don't all need to be there. Maybe the meeting format worked under a previous regime, a previous economic climate, a previous market. But on reflection, it doesn't need to be as large and unruly as it was. It can be more condensed. So within all of this, you naturally go into spin-offs. How often do we meet? Do we need to meet for shorter, sharper durations more frequently, or longer periods less frequently? It's all there on the table. But if that stop clock was on the wall and we were all watching that financial figure tick, 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 and that is coming straight out of your bottom line, it's amazing how that would focus us on thinking, why is this taking so long? Why am I here? Are all the right people here? Now, as you can probably tell, this is an area that I am hugely passionate about. And forgive me if this sounds like a rant, but simplicity is always the best course of action for me. And I have a very simple framework that I believe that you can implement in any one-to-one meeting, in any group meeting, to actually address some of the challenges I alluded to earlier, going off on tangents, alpha males holding the floor, meetings running on far longer than they need to, and a lack of structure. All of those common problems are addressed by the framework that I want to share with you now. And I call the framework the 3 questions. And they are quite simply, what is going well? What is not going well? How are we going to fix it? Now, it's very simple. But before the cynics roll their eyes and say, well, that's not particularly revolutionary, it's not. But are you using that framework? Why is that framework so important? What's going well? That sets the tone of any meeting. I don't care what level of stress, crisis, challenge you're dealing with, there is always opportunity to recognize elements of good performance, people going over and above the expected level of work or service. There are always opportunities to say thank you and well done to people, and it sets the right tone and mood in a room. What's not going well? Really important. This is where most meetings start and finish. There are multiple voices re-articulating the problem. They're pouring more and more fuel on the fire, repeating the same narrative, draining the energy out of the room, and reducing the amount of time for solution-focused discussions. And the final question, what are we going to do about it? If I built a pie chart of what I see most frequently, it would probably be 2 to 5% what's going well, 90% what's not going well, and the balance, circa 5% or so, on solutions. Now, that might sound a bit harsh, but that's the reality. We spend far too much time rehashing and repositioning and re-articulating the problem. Too little time giving praise where it's due and moving into solution focus. So if you are chairing the meeting, however strong the personality is, however dominant they are, if we have already got a grasp of what the problem is, we need to change gear, move into the third question, and move everybody's attention into what are we going to do about it. And that changes the energy. However big the challenge and the problem, we're now moving into a solution mindset. Equally, the hand grenade thrower, the person that likes to come in and just pour the petrol on the fire, the gasoline on the fire, and say, these are the problems, and almost step back. That's not acceptable. The culture has to shift to knowing that if you come in and articulate a problem under question 2, what's not going well, you must there propose your answer to question 3. What do you propose we do about it? Now, I'm not saying that people just present problems for a mischief, but sometimes it's an ego play. They're deliberately wanting to hold court. Perhaps they've got an agenda. Perhaps they don't agree with a particular strategy. Whatever the reasons, you've all seen the person that drops a grenade in the middle of the room, changes the dynamic and steps back. You have to come to the table and say, this is not going well, and this is what I propose we do about it. Knowing that you are going to be challenged to present a solution to every problem you articulate means the meeting becomes much more efficient, because anybody who does want to waste time and just lament a problem starts to retreat. They don't take up the floor like they used to because they know they're going to be challenged to present a solution. Simple framework, try it. If you are finding that you're in inefficient meetings that are running on too long, embrace this framework, because I guarantee you will truncate the length of time you're in a meeting. The other beauty is it gives everybody a voice. Everybody knows the framework. It gives ability to step in and talk about challenging situations, but retain a degree of positivity by linking it to a solution. Often people sit on the edge and the sideline of a meeting. They know they want to say something. They know they want to articulate it, but they're not quite sure what their in is. But knowing they have a framework to jump in and say, from my perspective, quick overview, these things are going well, these are not going well, and this is how I would fix it, you start to open up the whole room. So then you've got that question being answered. Is everybody in here adding value? Yes, everybody's contributing. It's not one or two voices and everybody else sitting quietly. Now, I am flying through these frameworks because the idea of these episodes is to be short, punchy, and promote reflection. Obviously, I spend a lot of time with leaders, with their wider team, embedding these philosophies and making sure that that shot clock that's ticking over and the finance that's ticking over to facilitate the meeting is all worthwhile and justified, because they're efficient meetings with the right people in the room, everybody adding value and everybody deriving value. But one other thing, just to link into the framework, when it comes to the end of a meeting, forgive me for the simplicity of this, but it's all too easy for the chair of the meeting to say, right, I'll summarize all the actions. Very easy for people to slope away, operate in the shadows, little bit of ambiguity. Oh, that's not how I remember. I wasn't sure. Was that what you wanted me to do? Everybody articulate their actions. So if you're leading the meeting, you kick it off and say, right, from today, thank you, everybody. I'm going to do A, B, C. Let's go round the table. And you go around clockwise or anti-clockwise, and everybody has to articulate their actions. Now, that has a multitude of benefits. Number one, there's no ambiguity. Number two, it drives ownership. and it drives accountability, because if you stand in front of your peers and verbalize what you are going to do, it's very difficult to come to that meeting again and say, I know I said I was going to do X, Y, Z, I haven't done any of it. It's much easier to operate in the shadows and say, oh, sorry, was I meant to do that? I didn't realize that. But equally importantly, and perhaps more importantly in the spirit of this episode, it highlights who is adding value and who isn't. Because if you don't have any actions at the end of a meeting, the natural question for you as an individual is, why am I here? And the natural question for whoever has called the meeting or is chairing the meeting is, why are they here? Now, there may be the odd meeting where there's more for one individual than another, but if that pattern repeats for a couple of meetings where you have no actions, then you really need to be ruthless with it and think, I don't really think I need to be in here, because you're adding to that financial shot clock. Your salary is burning up with you sitting in that room. If at the end of that, you are not taking any actions away, then you are purely in there for an information only summary, and you can get that post meeting, you can get access to the action trackers or the minutes or whatever comes out of it. But do you need to sit in there without taking any actions away with you? So I hope this episode really challenges you to reflect on how efficient are our meetings. Whether you're in the public or private sector, the money is coming from somewhere, and we all want more resource. I haven't met a leader yet that doesn't want to enhance their headcount, doesn't want a bigger marketing budget or a bigger infrastructure budget to make some additional capital investment or to add some new infrastructure or some new IT system. We've all got a wish list as leaders, as individuals in our professional space, but we are wasting resource in meetings. If you listen to this and say, no, our meetings are punchy, it's all the right people, everybody contributes, all cameras are on, everybody's engaged, and we don't go off on tangents, we haven't got alpha personalities dominating the floor, we're very solution focused, we don't go around in circles, we come out with clear actions, the actions are equitably split, there's no ambiguity, we come back to the next meeting and those actions have all moved forward, and nobody ever says, oh, was that what I was meant to do? Sorry, I didn't interpret that. Then if that's the case, good for you, and please get in touch, because I would genuinely love to hear from you and learn more about you as a leader and your organization. Because the reality in my experience is nobody's able to say yes to all of those situations, and most people are wasting some resource. And I just love that initial pattern interrupt that I gave you, that what would we all be doing, virtual, Teams, Zoom, or face-to-face, if there was a clock constantly rotating with a financial figure that our time was costing the business? How much more focused would we be? As ever, thank you for listening. Thank you for continuing to share your feedback. It is really appreciated. The patterns I see, I will continue to share to hopefully support you find new levels of performance as an individual, as a leader within your wider team, because with higher levels of performance come higher levels of fulfillment. And the reality for all of us is life is not a dress rehearsal. We've got to do everything in our power to enhance our performance professionally and personally, to enhance our fulfillment and get the very best out of ourselves, the people around us, and the things we commit our time and energy to. Thanks for listening to the Lonely Leader podcast. I'd be very grateful if you could share and follow if the content resonates. And if you're looking for additional free resource to support your continued growth and development, then please do check out our social media and website details in the show notes. Remember, quality leadership on the outside must always start within.